guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Aloe and Clover. So today what we're going to get into right away is how to make Irish soda bread. This is a family tradition for me because I come from a very Irish family. So what I'm going to do is I've already pre-measured everything here and I'm going to just kind of mix it in and get started. So what you want to do is preheat the oven to 425 degrees. And what I have here in this bowl is 4 cups of flour. I'm using an all-purpose / wheat flour, but you can certainly just use all-purpose flour. If you try and use any other kind of flour, just be careful because sometimes the measurements are different depending on if it's almond flour or coconut. But this is more of a traditional recipe, so I am using AP and some wheat. And then we have here 1 teaspoon of salt. We have 1 tablespoon of sugar. We have 1 teaspoon of baking soda. 4 tablespoons of butter. I'm using a plant-based butter, but you can use regular butter. It might be more creamy that way. And then I have 1 cup of raisins and 1 egg. I will be slightly beating it. And instead of using buttermilk, just because I don't have any available to me currently, I'm going to be using that is one of the substitutions for buttermilk. You can certainly do that to make it healthier, or you can just do that because that's what you have on hand. And we have 1 tablespoon of sugar. So I'm going to go ahead and add that to my mix here. And then I have 1 teaspoon of salt. And then I have 1 teaspoon of baking soda. And what you want is the butter to be at room temperature. See if I can just knead it into the mix. So I'm gonna go ahead and put that in. So you want to just slightly beat the egg, kind of just get it moving in the right direction. Just dump it on top. And then the last thing I'm going to add is the tablespoon of lemon juice. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to incorporate this first and make it into like a course meal before I go ahead and incorporate the raisins. And I find that twisting the spatula a little bit helps to loosen up the butter and get it a little bit easier to incorporate. Some fun facts about St. Patrick's Day, since we are celebrating St. Patrick's Day today. Happy St. Patty's Day to all my Irish women and Irish men. Erin go Bra is that this holiday of St. Patrick's Day was named after the patron saint of Ireland, St. Patrick himself. And it was this holiday to celebrate the Roman Catholic feast of St. Patrick's Day. So just some nerdy info for you people who like that kind of stuff. And the shamrock is one of the most recognized symbols for St. Patrick's Day. And it was used by St. Patrick himself to represent the Holy Trinity. So just a little fun fact for you. All right, so now we're gonna go ahead and incorporate the buttermilk. So we need 1 3/4 cup of buttermilk. So I'm gonna go ahead and dump that in. All right, so I poured this in a little too quickly, but that's okay. So I'm just gonna go ahead and get it incorporated. You want it, like I said before, you want it to be like a course meal type texture, because this is a thicker, heavier, denser bread than your traditional bread. So what I'd love from you guys is to go ahead and put in the comments section if you tried this recipe, if it worked for you, and if you really liked it, if you enjoyed this, and if you substituted anything in the recipe, or switched anything up, you know, let me know below, and certainly make sure that if you enjoyed this video that you like, comment, and share. And please subscribe. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and dump in my raisins. Get in there. You want to mix it until it's tough to stir, which it is. And so at this point, I'm gonna put a little bit of flour on my hands. And a little bit of flour on my space here. Don't worry, it is clean. So we're getting it in the shape that we want it. It is gonna look a little rough because it is, like I said, more of a rough type bread, more rustic, for all those rustic people out there. All right, so that looks pretty good. Okay, so this part, I have gotten the bread right onto the cookie sheet, and I use parchment paper just because I find it to be the best option for keeping it from sticking. And what we're gonna do now is we are going to put an X on the top of it. And depending on what theory or what version of the story you like, the mythical version of this with the X on the bread was initially in the 19th century to keep the devil out. So there's that. Or the more spiritual part of putting the X on the bread was to bless the bread and give thanks for what you had. Or the more practical reason for putting the X on the bread was to allow the dough to rise without splitting. All right, so the last part of this is gonna be what my cousin referred to as pinching out the fairies. And each scored section gets a pinch for love, for hope, for luck, and for kindness. So these are obviously very important things to remember. So here we go, we're pinching it for hope, love, luck, and kindness. All right, and then another option is to brush buttermilk on top of this to give it a nice crust to it. I'm not gonna do that this time around. So at this point, you would put it into the oven for 35 to 45 minutes if it's on a cookie sheet, or 45 to 55 minutes if you put it into an iron skillet pan. Another option for you is you can use caraway seeds. I chose not to this time around. I typically, when I make this bread, do put in caraway seeds, but I just chose not to this time. And then once you've cooked it for that long, you are gonna go ahead and let it stand for 15 minutes before cutting. And then you'll enjoy it. Or I hope you will, or you won't. If you like this recipe, just comment below what you liked about it, what maybe you changed about it, and then please don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you so much for tuning in to Aloe and Clover, and I'll see you next week, Tuesday at 9 a.m. Thanks. So I didn't mix it all in the bottom. So I'm gonna have to go ahead and do that now.